My name is Joscelyn Rowe. I'm from the Quad Cities Community Foundation, as Ellie mentioned to you a little bit ago. My role at the Community Foundation is donor relations and stewardship. I'm the Director of Donor Engagement and Stewardship at the Community Foundation, which means that my whole jam is making sure that people understand the impact of their giving, and also making sure that they feel thanked and appreciated and just delighted with how their gifts are impacting their community. I have 10 years of experience in nonprofit service. I evolved from program work to marketing to development, and I just am now finishing my 7th year of service on the AFP Quad Cities Board of Directors. As Ellie mentioned, I earned my CFRE in 2020, which means that my fundraising chops have been tested quite literally. There is an exam. And then, like I said, my role at the Community Foundation is to specialize in that donor engagement and stewardship work, because we know that donors who feel appreciated are most likely to give again. All right. Are you guys able to see like my Zoom thing across? Okay. Does that look okay to you?
Yeah, we're just in your slide.
Okay. Thank you, my dears. Okay. So Ellie shared with me that we've got a full spectrum of experience on this call. So I thought it would be a good idea to kind of revisit basics as we go along. So if you've heard this already, hang on, there might be something you haven't heard coming up. So stewardship is a strategic effort to make your donors feel appreciated, important, and informed. Stewardship is what happens after the gift. We steward the dollars, not the people. Think of stewardship itself as a transactional piece of your work. It is directly related to and in response to a gift. All stewardship is donor relations, but not all donor relations is stewardship. I used to make a crack that this was like all pants, you know, all khakis are pants, but not all pants are khakis. But I heard from someone that was a very dated way to phrase it, and I've just not come up with another one. So if you guys have some good ones, roll them into the chat for me. So when your stewardship is done really, really well, the time that you've invested on the good stewardship practices will foster future gifts. And that's not to say that all of the other things that we do as we go around our donor cycles won't help foster those gifts. But first and foremost, what's going to help you receive a second gift from a donor is good stewardship. Okay. So I'm curious to know if you can share with me a little bit about what your lane is in our conversation today. So we've got a lot of different kinds of shops that we all represent. And I know a lot of us have gone off of the camera because we are recording, and that is A-okay, because I think I can still see like your thumbs up. So can you share with me, you know, who here is in the nonprofit world? Right? Or, I mean, that's kind of crazy, right? Like we're all a nonprofit, but are any of us in shops that focus more on like higher ed or something that's not like service delivery? Okay, Eric, I see your hand. Cool, cool. Does anybody here have a budget for stewardship? Just me. Okay, and Ellie. Okay, cool. All right. This is good stuff. What about who is in your crew? Are you the pilot and the crew, and you're also serving coffees, or do you have a crew with you? Anybody more than one person in their development shop, or is development just a one-person shop? One person?
Joscelyn, I think we mostly have development isn't a shop. It's part of the whole shop.
Oh, this is wonderful. Okay. Yay. Is there anyone who feels like that they're a pretty experienced fundraiser? Okay. All right, Eric, I like it. You own that.
Eric is. That should be a full hand up.
Yeah. 2 hands, Eric. Show it to us. Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm going to guess then, based on what Ellie said, that you probably don't have a dedicated person in your organization who handles that stewardship stuff for you. All right. And that is A-okay. So Thank you for answering those questions. That is helpful to me. So when we are considering stewarding our donors, it's important for us to really take a step back from our organization and from the, the business of writing a thank you letter and say, why? What is our org's mission? Why? Why do we do that? This is the centerpiece of all of your stewardship efforts, right? Why do you do what you do? Why do you work in the service of that mission? And I mean you specifically. Why does it call to you to do this job? Why are you personally passionate about that mission? Figuring out our why and how to say our why will give you the flavor base for providing the tastiest stew. And practicing that why, becoming why fluent, will help your stew flow freely. And I know that sounds really silly, but the truth is, if when we're trying to explain why we love our mission or our org or our work, why something that we are excited about, why we're passionate about it, if that doesn't flow off of our tongues, it can sound like it's not sincere, and we know that that's not true. So I invite you to consider your organization's why and really distill it down to just a few things, right? I used to work for a child welfare agency, and our why for me was because our job was to make sure that children are safe. It was really easy. Nothing else mattered. We had 23 programs and services. I could talk all day about all of those, but really at the essence was keeping kids safe. And if you can figure out a way to distill that why down, I mean, you can always in a follow-up conversation get into those 23 programs. But in the meantime, just have an easy answer, one that is easy for you to say and easy for folks to hear and understand. So there are a lot of versions of the classic donor cycle out there, but this one's my favorite. This one's been around for a while. I thought I had the date on there. Shame on me. It's at least 10 years old. And the very center of this cycle is the purpose and the why. And then those things inform everything we do. At the very top is storytelling, which is the best way to help your donors and your champions understand your mission. And as we move clockwise around this, we see relationship building. We see that before we make that ask, we're going to tell the story. We're going to build the relationship. And after we've asked properly and received the gift, it's then time to shower our donors with appreciation, with encouragement, with engagement, with reporting, segmented marketing, and personal touches, right? All the things that we do all of the time. And then we collect and analyze our data. Did we achieve the results we hoped for? If not, what did we miss? Then we go back, we adopt, adapt, improve, and we start storytelling again. So if I were to walk through this cycle with a donor that I have received a gift from and am now stewarding, right? I'm starting at that donor magic piece, but to just engage someone that I've just begun cultivating, the storytelling is always going to be the way in. And in case you haven't noticed, I am pointing at my monitor like you guys can see it. We got this. I'm glad to be on this journey with you, kind people who I feel safe with. Another way to look at the donor cycle is here. Now, this is from Lynn Wester. She is the self-proclaimed donor relations guru, and she's got a really great way of breaking down big concepts so that they're relatable and bite-sized. And this is Lynn's version of that kind of donor cycle. She breaks out those activities into science and art, which really speaks to me. I think that's kind of lovely. That helps me visualize the work. So there is some work that we are going to do as stewards that is science, right? We know we want to get our acknowledgements turned around right away. But the art of the language that's going to make our donors feel warm and fuzzy, well, that takes a little, time and practice to get that right. Along the bottom, Lynn has listed some keywords to keep in mind as you move your donors through the cycle. right? So things like transparency and gratitude, access and information, all of these things you can provide to your donors at no cost. Okay. So the purpose of stewardship. I would think of it in these terms. What are you already doing that will check these boxes? You probably communicate already to your donors in a newsletter. Maybe you do videos. Maybe you have a way to reach out to them that is kind of programmatic. Maybe you think of it as marketing. I would invite you to think about all of the ways that you engage with your donor base as pieces of your stewardship plan. I would suggest that you strive for transparency whenever you can. Give your donor all the info you can share. I love to be in the know. I bet you love to be in the know. And what happens when we're in the know? We tell other people. So if you can call a donor and say, hey, you know, thank you for that gift that you just made. And I want you to know that that program you gave to, we have just had this report of this tremendous success, and I couldn't wait to tell you about it. Now you're the first person who knows. They are going to tell a lot of folks that they know about how excited they are to be part of this journey that you're on. People tell and share. I would also, you know, think about authenticity. You are human. Your donors are human. Find the balance between formality and kind of what you expect to share as, you know, a professional in your field, but also being human. Sometimes we want to default to that formality, especially with those really high dollar donors. I've been guilty of that myself, right? We want to give them the best impression. We want to really just have them feel like they've come to us and it's crystallized for them how just infallibly professional we are. I got the mush mouth. But the thing is, they also want to be able to see that we're human beings, and they want to feel like they can relate to us. And if we're giving them only our very most polished and most professional foot forward, they'll never see it. So when you find that you are having a human moment, name it, tell them, hey, this thing happened, and boy, we wish it hadn't gone quite that way. But as human beings, you know that we didn't mean to put a middle initial J in your name, right? And then that's like a horror story, but I mean, a mild horror story. But when we make mistakes, or when we have those moments where we can be human beings, those are the moments where you can kind of bond with people. And I know that you guys all know that as being humans yourself, and clearly very good ones. Be ready to shake up your process. Being flexible is really helpful. So if you've got a routine that you've done for years, and maybe taking a look at that and kind of bending it around means that you could better serve or delight your donors, give it a try. And then I mentioned on the last slide, the adapt, adopt, improve business. If you don't already have a stewardship plan, do yourself a favor. The easiest way to do it is take a look at what you did last year. Was it enough? Did everybody get thanked? Did everybody get to hear about the impact of their giving? Was it enough? Will more fit into your workflow? What could you do with more focus and intent next year? If you kind of look at what you've done, it'll give you a great idea for what you have the capacity for in the future. I would never suggest to anyone that they go in and just tear down everything they're doing and build up a fresh one. For goodness sake, don't do that. But take a look at what you really loved. See if you could do that more next year. And certainly ask yourself, what can we stop doing? I don't know about you guys. That's one of my favorite questions. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to get into some nitty-gritty here, you guys. Buckle up. So the reasons nonprofits lose donors. There are a lot of reasons why. They can be our donor priorities. Maybe they think another org is more deserving. Maybe they think your organization doesn't need them anymore. It could be that they can't afford to give support. It could be that they don't remember giving to you in the first place. I know that I got an email from Wikipedia saying, thank you for your gift. And I was like, did I really? Like, they must have had a really good ask, because I don't usually fall for that, but right. Okay. All right. Wikipedia. Thank you. Thank you. So they might not remember supporting, which means they probably won't give again. They might support in other ways. Maybe it's not through giving. Maybe it's, maybe they volunteer, maybe they have an in-kind drive, which you might consider a donation and you might not, right? Then there are communication reasons. Maybe we didn't ask them. Maybe we never told them what we did with their gift. Maybe we said thank you and never followed up to say what the impact was. Maybe they received inappropriate communication. Maybe they never gave to Wikipedia but got a thank you email anyway. And then, maybe they were solicited for an inappropriate amount. That is the worst one, right? Maybe they would have been really comfortable at a $500 gift, but we asked them for $5,000 and now they can't even look at us anymore, right? That happens. So we know that every donor has their own reason for falling off, and it might not have anything to do with us. It might be a strictly personal thing, but it 100% could be something that they waited for us to do that didn't happen. So when we're considering that donor attrition, it's important for us to really focus our language and our kind of donor-centered work, so that those donors feel lifted up and that they always know that their gifts of every size make a difference. So here are some factors that drive donor commitment. And it's important for donors to really think of us as someone that they can count on, that our org is someone that they can count on. So in terms of service quality for our donors, that means you deliver. When they're learning about our org or learning about the work, you taught me something. You echo my values and our shared beliefs, right? Your cause is important to me. So when they are giving to you, when they are giving that $25 entry-level gift, these are the messages you should be seeing between those dollar signs and zeros. Is you are careful about what you do with my money, or you are innovative. You say what you're going to do, and I believe you. So here's my $50. Maybe it's you at the cardiac unit of the hospital saved my grandmother. You have impacted me or my family directly. And it could be that you give me opportunities to be engaged in multiple ways. So there are a lot of things that a donor feels in that giving relationship. And we want to be able to remember that the reasons that they give are complex. And they're not because I believe in your mission. And they're not because you asked, right? All of those things help move us along the cycle, but no one of those things can do it alone. We need to have donors who really feel like they're on the journey with us. Okay. So it's important for us when we're talking through stewardship to remember that our organization's leaders, or maybe even we ourselves, if we are the wearer of many hats in our orgs, it's hard to make a pitch for spending on stewardship because it doesn't immediately equal inputs. But if you are having trouble cooking up a reason for a budget, I'll tell you that there are numbers that even your trickiest CFO can appreciate. So Penelope Burke, who is the creator of donor-centered fundraising movement and is also my complete hero, she tells us that 90% of donors stop giving within 5 renewal requests after acquisition. So what that means is I have given your organization, Eric, I'm sending you $50 and you have thanked me. But then before I can make my next gift in newsletters, oh, I'm sorry I used you for this example. It wasn't Eric, it was me. You've sent me newsletters, and inside of those newsletters are some remittances and a few more asks. And so before even a year has passed, I've received 7 more requests to give again. So that means you've kind of used up my capacity for hearing about additional gifts. And a lot of times that can happen before we've even fully reported out how that donor's gift was used, if we're not careful. And it happens, right? I received a paper newsletter. It's got a remittance envelope. I get a newsletter every month from your MailChimp, and in it there's a give button, right? And that's all how we fundraise. And I'm not saying that we cannot fundraise that way, but it's important to know that if they've been asked 5 times, it's extremely likely that they are going to drop off if they've been asked that many times before a proper thank you has been in place. 66% of donors never make a second gift to a nonprofit. So we call that attrition. And what that means is, without a thoughtful donor strategy, this year, your org can expect to lose 66% of last year's new donors. I'm going to say that again because it's a horrifying thing to say. 66% of donors never make a second gift, which means this year's new donors might never give next year, right? We know it costs 5 times more to recruit a new donor than it takes to retain a current donor. So when we do that math and we take great care of the people who give to us now, then we are in great shape for, not having that attrition in the future. These are the numbers that I point to when I'm asked if stewardship is worth the trouble, because it really is. It's very, very easy math. And after all the work we do to acquire new donors, the next logical step is to keep them. Between the first gift and the next gift, that is when our donor stewardship and engagement really shine. Okay. So we're going to dig in a little bit about stewardship work. But first, I really want to talk to you guys about fasting. Fasting is not the word we wanted, but is the word we needed. So this term was coined by Lynn Wester, the donor relations guru. I mentioned her a little while ago. And so first, let me just ask you guys, has anyone here, are you guys familiar with fasting? Is this new filthy word for you? Okay. So, okay. So fasting is when we are thanking a donor for a gift and we slide into that thank you and ask. So when we say things like, thank you for your continuing support. That is on my naughty list of words. Thank you for your continuing support is horrible because it implies that the next gift from that donor is a given. Or when we say, we've got an appeal that we're sending out to a person who is a volunteer, and they are just falling into the appeal, but we're writing on it, thanks for all you do. Okay. Are you asking me for money, or are you thanking me for all the volunteer efforts I do? Because that doesn't feel good when they come hand in hand. So like if we've got another one where we're sending a thank you for a gift, a receipt or acknowledgement, but we just slide a remittance in there, that's a fast. It's a fast. And so the thing that's so bad about fasting, and there are a million different ways to look at it. You can fast more ways, I think, than, you can hop on one foot. But the thing that's important about fasting is that when we fast, we are sacrificing a relationship for fast cash. And our donors can sniff it out because it stinks. And it's important for us as fundraisers to leave space for that relationship to grow between, the thanking and the next ask. We just need a little bit of space. And I would say this, this is not mine, but I heard someone say, it's kind of like when you receive a great birthday card and you call your grandmother and you say, thank you so much for this birthday card, but do you know that Christmas is coming and there will be great need then as well, right? Like, that's not going to do much for our relationships when we frame a thank you as an opportunity for more asking. All right. And then after our session today, I've got this great booklet that I'll send to you. I'll send to Ellie to share, that has Penelope Burke's kind of tips and tricks on thank you letters. She's got this awesome kind of how to transform acknowledgements into pieces that will thrill and delight. And there's like a code in the thing to use it. It's in the that doesn't matter. Ellie is so on top of this. I do not need to get into those details, you gang. Okay, so here she is. I've mentioned her a couple of times. This is Penelope Burke. She's my professional crush. I used to have reddish hair. This is why I don't look like the same person in that photo. This photo was taken at National Philanthropy Day in the Quad Cities in 2019. In this moment, Penelope had told me that she never stays for drinks and she also never allows herself to be photographed holding a drink. And I swore that I would never share this photo. So here we are, a couple of swearers. But we were having a really fun day, and actually Penelope always presents in pink, so I wore pink that day. So now you know, like, the fangirl level that I was at in that moment. So Penelope says that writing thank you letters is the first step that fundraisers take in securing the next gift. And I could not agree more. I think that so simply sums up how important it is to thank people in a way that is meaningful to them. So acknowledgements. Acknowledgements are truly the best place to start your donor-centered relationship, because our donors are still feeling really warm and glowy. They are really, really happy. And so we know that donor attrition is at its very highest between the first ask and the second ask. So we've got to ask ourselves, sorry, I just lost my place, you gang. So we have to steward these gifts with focus and intent. So while we are doing that, we want to, if this is their first gift, recognize that it's their first gift, because I mean, they've just told us like that they kind of like us, check yes or no, right? So now it's time for us to say, yes, we like you too. So when we're looking, if it is a first gift, first make sure it is. Are you sure that it's not a different household? Right? What do you usually receive from Mr. and Mrs. and now you're just receiving a gift from Mrs. because it's come through on her credit card? Like, make sure that we are watching for that, right? That's so important. Say thank you for your first gift if you can. At the QCCF, the Quad Cities Community Foundation, I've got these donor buck slips that I call them. It's like a third of a piece of paper on cardstock. It says, "You're number one." And I'll slide those into those acknowledgements. So that way I don't have to write something different every single time. And I'll write a little note on it that says how touched we are that they thought to give to us. It will matter to them that you noticed. So if your strategy is just to write on their acknowledgement letter that's been printed, "I see this is your first gift. I am touched. We are honored." That's okay. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be something they're going to put up on their refrigerator or, fold in with their Christmas cards to save until the end of time. It just has to show them that you notice them. And we want to, no matter whether or not it's their first gift or their 50th, we want to convey our excitement, our gratitude, and the inner warmth of the writer, which can be really hard because our days are long, right? And we don't always feel full of inner warmth. Sometimes that warmth is something else. So if that happens, you just try to put yourself in that donor's frame of mind when they made that gift, right? They made a decision to give. They felt really good energy. They, they wrote you a check and put a stamp on it and mailed it. Oh my gosh. Or they visited your website and clicked through to make a gift. They were excited and hopeful, and they wanted to make a difference for something that's really important to you. So try to put yourself into that donor's frame of mind when you are writing off a 2-sentence thank you that's going to thrill and delight them. I always try to focus on the donor, not on the money. So I would write a similar, expression of gratitude for a $10 gift as I would for a $1,000 gift. The money is important. The dollar amounts are important. But when it's just that simple thank you, it's really the thought that counts there. That's what we're focusing on. And then if you can, use a stamp, handwrite the envelope, and give them a little mailbox joy. Anything you can do to set your envelope apart from the pile does help. And people don't receive mail like they used to, nor do they, does mail come that they want to read? I don't know about you guys, but I'm understanding that I'm not the only person with a pile of unopened envelopes. That has been happening at a rate like crazy. People don't want to deal with their mail. So wouldn't it be neat if, because your mail always looks really special and there's always a stamp, the Postal Service makes stamps that say thank you on them. It's beautifully scripted. I've got sheets of papers of those in my office. Wouldn't it be nice if they recognize your envelopes and open them because they know that there's going to be some good feelings inside? Knowing that it's going to make them feel super is a great way to get them into the habit of opening your mail. And I'm sure it does not need to be said, but always make sure that their name is spelled correctly. If you know that their nickname is Andy and their full name is Andrew, call them Andy. Personalize that as much as possible because it will feel sincere to them, that gratitude when it's directed at them, who they are as a person. Okay. To recap, acknowledgements are for thanking. Your donor is going to bask in the good feelings of giving and of being thanked, and your focus has shifted from the gift to the donor. Okay, so I can hear you guys all like, what about tax receipts? Okay, here we go. Okay, so there are a lot of ways to do it. I've got kind of a thing like, what are you guys doing at your org? But I'm going to assume that everybody here is sending thank yous for, or at least tax receipts for gifts that come in. Now, there are a lot of ways to do it, right? We can send our receipts and our acknowledgements together. We can send them separately. We can send them exclusively through the postal mail. We can send them through postal mail and email. We can do both. We can send receipts, but not acknowledgements. So here's where I kind of fall on all of these. Thanking versus receipting. Thanking is for feels. Receipting is for taxes. Now, at my organization, we simply do not have the capacity to do a printed receipt and then a separate thank you. For me, those are on one sheet, and it seems to be a-okay with my donors. For some organizations, they prefer to have that even more personalized. So consider what works best for your org and do that. Do it well. It'll be great. Your donors will appreciate it. Make sure that it's donor-centered, meaning you've got all of that. Their information is correct. The gift that you are talking about is correctly described and was directed how they wanted it. That you're mentioning if they have decided they would like it to be anonymous, that's going to give them a little bit of calm. Your anonymous gift of $50 was received on this date, right? Just plop it in there. They'll appreciate it. So helping them feel seen in those acknowledgements really goes a long way. And if you can meet them where they give, that is one extra step that I think donors appreciate. If they have given to you online An emailed acknowledgement and receipt is appropriate. Even a follow-up email of, you just made my day, right? Just a couple of sentences can be that extra touch, because so often with our emailed tax receipts, those have to be canned, right? And they come right from the system that accepted the gift, so we don't have a lot of ways to personalize those. So a follow-up email is a really nice way to put your thumbprint on that and to steward that donor a little bit. And then, when you are in your process of making those things personal, I would suggest to you that donors are looking for a break from, on behalf of our board of directors, or because of you and people like you is the worst. What about me? I'm the one, right? Or your continued support, which I already trashed earlier in this presentation. Your continued support for me just, it feels like that my future gift is a foregone conclusion. So don't feel like you have to thank them for something that they haven't done yet. Donors are passionate about the causes they support, so that passion should be reciprocated. You want to meet their energy just as much as you can. Okay. So there are a lot of ways. Oh, did this not flip? Hang on, you guys. Okay. Okay, so how quickly should we send a thank you? 24 hours, 48 hours, as soon as we receive a check, within a week, 2 weeks plus. We don't do that. There are so many answers to that question. But I would think about it in terms of when your donor will receive that thank you versus when you post it. So, if this is a relationship that you love and you're calling grandma to say thank you for that birthday card and you've waited 6 weeks, she's not going to feel as excited as she would if you had called her maybe that day or the day after when it arrived. So you want to try to jump in before the donor's excitement has diminished. How much has that happened after 48 hours or a month, right? Consider the axiom of thanking before we bank, right? Can you thank before you bank at your organization? I would recommend that you make sure those checks get cashed right away. And if you haven't ever, you might consider making a gift to your organization just so that you can see how your gift flows through that process. I know that about 5 years ago, when my colleague in development and I both started at the Quad Cities Community Foundation, we both did that independently of each other. And we found that our gifts took about 3 to 4 weeks to receive thank yous. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of time. And the thing that we got out of that was it gave us an opportunity to examine our process. And what we ended up changing was, before everything went to the finance department first. Okay, well, now it goes to development. We get the pieces we need. We move it right along. It takes us a couple of hours. And then they can take however long they want to do their part. It doesn't matter if it's 18 days because we've already done the thanking. If you run into problems with non-development staff members who are like, get out of our process, you don't know what it takes to cash checks, that's okay. That's okay. Just be sure to share with them what you've learned about donor attrition rates and tell them, hey, we know that we're more likely to be able to renew this person at 5 times less the cost than if we lose them completely and have to go find a replacement. So could we please see the checks first? It's a great conversation to have. And my feeling is that our finance folks who love to look at numbers, that stuff makes perfect sense to them. And they are happy to have your team jump in and switch things around. Okay, acknowledgement must-haves. So our donor's name is spelled correctly. First name salutation, even better if you know that it is Andy rather than Andrew. The words thank and you. Boy language. So for me, that is the because of you language that aligns that donor with your mission. It's good language, but don't use it. Don't make that your reflex language, right? Because of you, because of you, because of you, we can beat that to death. So find a way to say it without saying that exact thing. Without the support of people like you versus you made it possible, right? If you find that your language is using a lot of withouts or we can't or it's not, stop that. Turn the crystal, look at it a different way and find the positive words that you can use to say the same thing in a way that's going to make it feel like you're talking right to them about what they did. So be sure to keep your acknowledgement brief. Just a few sentences. It doesn't have to be a lot. I know a lot of us, when we are talking about our organizations, really want to dive in and share the noble history of our orgs and tell them all of the things we've overcome to get to this point, but they just gave a gift. So hopefully they know that stuff. So leave it out of your thank you. Save that noble history for another time. If you can, get an ink signature, preferably by your executive director or by your CEO. Maybe it's the board chair, maybe it's the head of school. Look for that star at your organization. And I would say for those stars at your organization, find a way to kind of, save them for those most important gifts. Now, maybe that's the biggest gift, but maybe it was the one you worked hardest to land, or maybe it was one you never expected, or from someone that blew your mind that they made that gift. It doesn't have to be the largest gift to be the most meaningful, right? And then if you can, a handwritten message from the signer. Brief. Thank you, Julie. That's it. If they want to write a whole lot more, if they want to write, Julie, it was so great to see you last week at the symphony. And then beyond that, I think your daughter's beautiful and I would love to have lunch with you. Give them a fresh one, have them write thank you, Julie on it, and have them transfer all of that into a thank you card that you will send next week. That works great. They still get to share that big message and you've got an extra touch then built in. Okay. So acknowledgement templates. So acknowledgements are important, obviously, right? We've talked about all of the, so my stars. Here, we got this. Okay. Sorry, you guys, I'm feeling really lightheaded. We got this. You guys are helping me power through. Okay. So for our acknowledgements, if you can, please refresh them once a month. Yes, really. If nothing else, try to make sure that you don't ever send the same canned thank you to a donor more than once, right? It feels less impactful. Like in July, I got this amazing thank you letter and I felt like this organization knows me and my heart is singing. But then in September, I made a gift to them again and I got precisely word for word the same thank you. It did diminish my joy, right? So if you can, and what I would say to that is, if you've got a long, perfect acknowledgement letter, it's too much. Take one piece of what you liked out of that long, perfect acknowledgement letter and break it up into 12 months of acknowledgement letters. Make them really simple and sweet and impactful. They don't have to be a long story, the noble history of your org, or an invitation to give again. It just has to say thanks. Edit them before you print them so that you can add personal touches. The way it looks like at my org is the acknowledgement letters get dumped into a file, a Word doc, they're all together. And we send out a link to the people who are going to be signing those. They dive in, they edit. Okay, Ellie, it was great to see you on Zoom on Wednesday. And it was a real treat to see that you've made this gift, right? And now when I sign it, I don't have to write all that stuff in because it's in the body of the letter. And so that can be a time saver. It can save your fingers from cramping. And it can also make sure that everyone has a chance, all of your signers have a chance to put a little something into that body. Now, I recognize that that's not going to flow with everybody's timelines. It's just not. So sometimes you'll be able to do that for your ED or for the signer. And sometimes it's just going to ride with nothing. And all of that is okay because your core letter is so good. Okay, it's so good that even without a ton of personalization, folks are going to feel moved. I keep a notepad document full of phrasings. Helps me keep track of beautiful expressions of gratitude. So create for yourself a word bank that you can use for your organization's messaging. And you can use it for everything. You don't have to just use it for thanking. But if you don't have one already, I would get one started. For me, I would say, our key messages include transformation, trust, generosity, quad cities, right? These are all things I say over and over and over and over again. I also store really great sentences that I've strung together from either our marketing materials or other expressions of gratitude that would translate well into celebrating donor behavior, so that I've got them all in one can. And when I'm really like, I cannot think of another thing today, I've got a place to go that's got some good ones for me to use as a springboard. And I would just say over and over, use what you have on hand. Somewhere you have got some well-written marketing materials that have really good phrasings about what you do, about things that you love, about what's important for your org. Pull those into that boilerplate for yourself so that you don't have to go digging for them. And a lot of times just seeing those lists will help spark really great ideas. So it's a time saver for you and less of a brain bridge when you're trying to make those connections. Okay. So with our acknowledgements, think about some of those donor experience moments, like what kind of paper you're using. If you can use a heavier weight paper, 24 or 28 pound paper is like slightly heavier than copy paper. It has really nice feel and it isn't a whole lot of a splurge. Just save that for only for printing thank yous. If you can, for that IRS tax info that we all put on all of our acknowledgements, if you can push it down to the bottom, do that. I actually just started last year pushing all of the gift information down to the bottom. So the top's got a nice, nice expression of gratitude, talking about how the donor's gift will make a difference. And then at the bottom, it says, on this date, we received this gift of this amount to this fund with these stock shares or whatever, right? So it's all at the bottom. It's there for their accountant when they need it, but my donor doesn't need to read all of that stuff. What they really need to hear from me is a thank you. And knowing that I can't do it on 2 separate pages, this has been my solution. No one has called to congratulate me on the brilliance of that, but no one has called to complain either. So I'm balancing that out and counting it as a win. Another thing that you can do is print a stack, like literally, you go like Walgreens or Snapfish or all these places you can print photos. Print a stack of snapshots of your mission in action. I know we can't always use photos of our clients, but there are a million ways to take mission photos so that when you are putting together that thank you, you can just slide a photograph right in there, right? It's just a thing to have. Those cost like a penny a piece if you find a good online coupon. And, that type of stuff can be fridge worthy, which is always a nice goal. And it can tell a story much better than our 2 or 3 acknowledgement sentences can. And if you really feel motivated to include the noble mission of your org, try doing a photograph instead. So the standard ACK acknowledgement letters, they're not going to go away. We're going to be doing these forever. So when we kind of change the way that we reach our donors through those, it's going to feel a little bit fresh and different for them because they're used to getting a standardized letter that is really a form letter that contains this information. So a little surprise every now and then in that process is very, very nice. You guys, it's just occurred to me that we have 5 minutes remaining and I have like 4 more slides. So let me just click through here so that people can ask questions. Who should sign? Should be the most important person at your organization. And then I would advise that you think beyond the standard thank you, which would include things like postcards, note cards, videos, email. And my favorite is phone calls. And I'm going to close this presentation so I can talk to you about those. No, I'm not. Oh.
I did it for you, Joscelyn.
Oh, bless your heart. Thank you. When we have a chance to call someone, this is the best. So we get a scan every morning of all of the gifts that have come in. And one of my first things to do is to call those folks and say, hey, I just saw your gift come in. You just blew my mind. I wasn't expecting that. I'm so excited. Or I can't believe you did this. We just talked about this. This is so exciting. It's a 10-second voicemail. It's almost always a voicemail. And people love it. People will tell my boss that they love getting my voicemails, which is freaking crazy to me. But I really think that it's so unusual for people to call anymore. So, and then being able to hear that excitement in our voices. I've got people who say, I saved that message and I played it for Mrs. Next Door, or I played it at the dinner table with my family because someone said these nice things about me and I wanted someone else to hear it, right? So those can be a huge cost-free way to make someone's day. All right, you guys, I talked at you for so long. How could I answer any questions?